we can just get him in the studio, we'll have Peter Reckell. Hello, Debbie. How are you? Peter, good to see you.
Kim Behrens.
Have a seat. This is great. Great. You know, we have a whole bunch of excited people in the lobby. And to fight your way through the mob, it's almost, it's a real challenge.
No, that's fun.
It's 6 minutes after 11 o'clock at WJBC. We're going to talk about the, Days of Our Lives program. We're also going to talk about a show called Allocating Annie, and we're going to have fun this half hour. We'll take some phone calls, too. You just get yourself situated here. This is...
Make myself at home.
Catch your breath, right? It's 7 minutes after 11. You want some coffee or something?
Yeah, that'd be good.
I bet you somebody would love to bring you up a cup of coffee. They're listening right now.
Oh, okay.
So somebody will bring up a cup. You want anything in it?
No.
Just
black.
Black will do it. Good to have you here.
Well, thank you.
I understand it's been a big rush since you've arrived in Central Illinois. You're at Goodfield. You got there Sunday?
Monday morning, very, very early. We had flying into Chicago was a very bumpy landing, so I decided not to get on another airplane and rented a car and drove in.
You were flying in on what? A small plane into Chicago?
No, it was a very large plane. We did one of those sideways landings, and I went, I don't think I want to get on a small plane in this way.
Are you nervous about planes anyway?
Not usually, but
No.
after that landing, I was.
So you drove down.
Yeah, so we just went around all the roadblocks in the road. Man, there's a lot of construction happening here.
We knew you were coming. So we
Planned
arranged
it
for
for
that.
me. All right.
Peter Reckell was on Days of Our Lives, played Bo Brady.
Mm-hmm.
Bo Brady is still being on.
Yeah, somebody took over the role, and when I left, apparently the character was popular enough for somebody to take over. But
what was your reaction to that?
At first, it sort of hurt my feelings that they would create or bring somebody in to take over what I had created. But then it was like flattering, that the role was popular enough for them to want to continue.
Mm-hmm.
I felt sorry for the guy who had to do it. I mean, I wouldn't want to have been in his position. Thank you.
I'm trying to remember when that happened. They've done it on various shows. I think Dallas, they had other people play some of the same people, different characters. And it's like, wait a minute, this kind of loses me.
It happens on daytime quite a bit. The audience, I remember once when I was first on the show, I was in the hospital, and I had 4 different women play the same nurse. She would go out of my room and then come back a different person with the same name. And I was like, well, at least we could give her a different name. We don't But on daytime, it's fairly common.
It's the world of the soaps.
Yeah.
How long have you been off the show?
It was a year in December, so it's been a year and a half.
Yeah. So what have you been doing in the meantime?
I've been very busy. Yeah. Last fall, I did an original play in L.A. called Misconduct Allowed. That was fun. I got to play a stand-up comedian, which was a little different from what I'm used to. It was an original play that the director was also the writer and the producer, and so we worked a lot with the script. It was fun to do something where you had some input on what actually was said, and I had like 3 different stand-up routines in it. Opening night, we had changed the first monologue so much. That was the first time I had done it. That was rather exciting. And I was taken out of that show to go to Russia to do a movie, so that was amazing. I don't know if you've ever been in Russia, but we spent 10 days in Moscow shooting in Red Square and around Moscow, and then we went down to Azerbaijan.
Yeah. This had been when all the turmoil was going on, maybe.
Well, it's still going on. They're in revolution right now, and that made being in Azerbaijan quite exciting.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's amazing just being in. I mean, seeing Red Square, you've heard about it, seen it in books, etc., and then we were there filming. It took me a couple of days just to go, oh, man, this is the place.
Yeah. My wife was over there, and she said I felt like I was being watched the whole time, but this was long before the breakup.
Yeah, I didn't have that feeling at all.
Yeah.
That sort of mistrust.
You were watched when you came through the lobby is what you were watching.
Yeah, that's really being watched. That lack of trust is, I'm sure it's still lingering there, but it's not as great as it once was.
Yeah. It's good to have you here today, really
thank
is.
you.
We'll give people a chance to talk to you. Peter
That'll be fun.
is in studio right now, but he will be opening on June 2nd in a show called Allocating Annie at the Conklin Players Dinner Theater in Goodfield.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of the show before they offered it to me, but it's such a fun show, and we're having such a blast rehearsing it. The cast is amazing, and I don't know. I can't. If you want a fun night of theater, come and see this. And we're just getting rolling with the rehearsals.
Maria Lane plays a wealthy socialite.
Yeah, anybody who's seen anything there has probably seen her, right?
Yeah. And Jim Stout, I think, is the best man and attorney.
Yeah, my best buddy.
And let's see, who else is in the show?
Jim Irvin. He is so funny. If you do like seeing stand-up comedians who do imitations, you'll have a blast. He does about 100 of them during the course of this play.
He likes to do accents and things. Yeah, I got to be in a show with him.
So you know him?
Yeah, so we worked a little bit. Bernie Coppell was there in Rumors. That was.
I don't know the show.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a Neil Simon thing.
So how many shows have you done out there?
I've done 2.
Oh, so you know the atmosphere that I'm working.
They bring me
with,
back all the time. I think that about 10 years go by, and then they say, "You want to do another one?"
Yeah.
So
Good for you.
so it was great. But everybody that goes out there just has a ball.
Yeah, I mean you can't help it.
The people are crazy, but they're fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're gonna love it.
Yeah, and the other 2 members of the cast, I believe that's their first show there.
Chris and Pam.
Chris and Pam.
Uh-huh. What's the whole premise of the show? You want to just without giving the whole thing away?
Yeah, it's a lot of misunderstanding. I'm a plastic surgeon who is getting married tomorrow. It takes place in one day, and I'm marrying my fiancée for all the wrong reasons. And I don't really want to marry her, but I do want to marry her. And then this little cog, my lawyer brings in the piece of information. Somebody has willed me what I think at first is their daughter, who at first I think is a baby, then I find out, or I believe is a woman, and a grown woman, and that sort of upsets my fiancé, and my lawyer is really in love with my fiancé, and my sister is looking for a movie star or actor to fall in love with, and
okay. It sounds like it gets a little complicated.
Yeah, by the end, everybody ends up, as it should, with the right person. So it's
a lot of fun along the way, though.
A lot of laughs along the way.
It's 11:15. If anybody wants to talk with you, why don't we have them give us a shout? Would that be okay
great.
with you?
Yeah, I love talking to people.
Peter Reckell in studio with us. If you watched Days of Our Lives, maybe you still do.
Or
maybe
Knots
you wish
Landing.
it was back on.
Knots Landing is something I was on a couple of years. What was that? 4 years ago now, man.
You were on As the World Turns too, right?
Oh, that's a long time ago. Eric Hollister, back in the days of that, brought me out of being a starving actor when I was living in New York. And Knots Landing was that was a fun role. I got to play an Irish rogue with an Irish accent. It was a lot of fun.
I expect him to pull a bar of soap out of his pocket at any moment now. A bar of green soap with a pocket knife.
They never asked me to do that commercial.
You do any other accents?
Not like Jim does. I don't keep up on those kinds of things.
Now in Hollywood they have coaches, don't they? People take on a role where they and you work and work and work.
I'm still trying to just learn how to speak English properly, much less.
Where did you grow up?
Right up the road here in Michigan, Lansing, Michigan. Hopefully I'm sure they will. My folks will come down and see the show. So I'm a Midwestern boy. I mean, this terrain looks very familiar.
Yeah. It's exciting having you here.
Yeah.
We'll go to the phones in just a moment. 829-2345 or 1-800-322-9377 is our number, or are our numbers. I'll get the...
it's my number now, too.
If you want to talk. 16 past 11 is the time, and you're in tune to WJBC.
Looking toward...
Okay, it's 11:18. Peter Reckell's in the studio. Millie, good morning to you.
Good morning. I am a big fan of Days of Our Lives, and I watch it all the time. If I can't be home, I tape it. And like Peter, I was really upset when he left the show.
Millie, how do you like that new Bo Brady?
He...
Let me start off with a question.
Okay. All right, well...
Now try to be honest.
Yeah, really.
You don't have...
At first, I didn't like him at all. He's kind of growing on me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, they tend to do that.
He just does things that I think, well, Peter wouldn't do that, and it's just not the way...
The real Bo Brady wouldn't do that.
Right. And I still miss you.
Well, thank you.
And it's great to be able to talk to you. I was able to see Josh Taylor when he was over at Goodfield.
Yeah, isn't he fun?
Yeah, he's really great.
Yeah, he's the one who introduced me to this theater. He said he couldn't say enough good things about the theater.
He's just a nice guy.
Yeah.
And I know he was on Ken's show, and I was lucky enough to win 2 tickets to go see him.
Uh-huh.
And we really had a great time. And
well, you'll come even if you don't win a ticket, right?
well, sure. And it's great talking to you, Bo. That seems more natural than Peter.
Yeah, well, I guess you know me better as Bo than Peter, so...
Yeah, and...
I'll excuse that.
I think...
Sorry that you and Hope couldn't get back together.
Well, you know what? I got a feeling she might be back.
Oh, really?
I heard a rumor someplace that she was going to be back on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's great talking to you.
You too, Millie.
And I hope to see you again soon.
Okay, good.
Okay, come on out to the theater.
Okay,
Thanks.
bye.
WJBC, you're on the air. Oops, no, you aren't. How about you? Good morning.
Hi.
Hello.
Peter.
Hello.
I'm a big fan of Days.
What's your name?
Marcy.
Hi, Marcy.
Do they have different writers now than when you were on there?
Oh, the writers change all the time. They have new producers there, so I assume that the writers have changed. Yeah, why? You got a comment about that?
Because when I'm not saying just you, some of the other players that used to be on there too, made it more exciting. Now I could always guess what was going on, what was going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just one of them types. I can watch a mystery and tell you who the killer is. But
do you get bored reading books and stuff?
Huh?
Do you get bored reading books because you know what the ending's going to be?
No, it's fun to see if I can guess it.
See if you were right.
If I was right, but it just the show is not exciting. It's not.
Well, I'm sorry.
It's
Maybe they'll wake up and they'll realize they made a big error by not offering this man tons of more money to make him stay with the show.
And I just don't care for the other guy. I guess.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You might be lucky.
Nice guy.
You might be lucky, or I might be lucky. I'm talking to people at General Hospital and also Young and Restless, so I might be a traitor and move over to another soap.
Okay.
Well, I might have to go along.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, it's nice talking to you, and good luck in all you do.
Thank you very much.
Do the actors bribe the writers so they write juicy parts for them? Or how does that work?
That's one thing about daytime is really nice is that the writers, once you're on a couple of months or whatever, they watch your work and they start writing to how you do their stuff, and so that was a fun thing for me. Is that, as a matter of fact, one of the storylines when I first came back to the show was an environmental storyline, and it's something that Al Rabin, who was the executive producer at the time, I went in to talk to him, and he said, well, geez, there's no real bad guys on the show right now for you to be up against. And I said, well, how about just having an environmental storyline, because that's something that I personally am very involved with. And he said, oh, yeah. And so we brought it on the show, and as a matter of fact, the show won some kind of award from Echo, which is an organization that tries to get environmental issues onto television and movies, and make sure that they're accurate in what they do. So that was nice. It was a nice pat on the back, and I was able to accomplish something that I'm personally involved in.
Terrific. How about the jump from Michigan? How does a guy who grows up in Michigan
Man, I don't know.
wind up getting in theater?
It started out, as a matter of fact, walking around the barn the other day really reminded me of my roots of when I first was starting in theater. Got a taste of it. I was walking around the back of the stage, and the first theater I ever worked in, I was a tech director, so I was in charge of building the sets, etc. And we moved into a theater that hadn't been a theater in a couple of, I don't know, maybe it was 10 years, 20 years or something. And we were also on a budget, like most theater is, and I was back there straightening nails to reuse in the set, and and building the set out of wood that had been around for 20 years, and and just pulling things together and making them work, and that's how I started. It was community theater when I was, I don't know, about 15 or so.
Took a big jump though to say, hey, I'm going to go to New York.
Well, and it was steps, and I went to Boston to go to school, and that was one step, and then I was in New York. Because the summer after I graduated from college, I worked on Cape Cod, and a bunch of people who worked there with me, we all moved to New York, and I hadn't moved there permanently, and I had auditioned for a few things, and I had auditioned for Grease, and I went back to Michigan to try to figure out what I wanted to do, and when I was in Michigan, a buddy of mine from New York called up and said, "What are you doing in Michigan? You got a call back for Grease." And I was like, "Oh shoot!" And I flew back to. No, I bought a motorcycle and rode it back to
because you don't
New
like
York.
to fly, right?
Right. Rode it back to New York and auditioned. Went to the callback, didn't get anything, but then just stayed in New York, and I was there a couple months before I went, oh my God, what am I doing in this big city?
Yeah.
And being a starving actor for a few years, and finally hitting on something, and moving to LA because it was more of my lifestyle, just to be able to get outside and have a little bit of freedom.
Now you're back in the Midwest for the humidity. It's great.
Yeah. Well, that was one thing. I was a real theater buff, and I was trying to make it in the theater. And a manager got a hold of me and said, "Peter, you want to do theater? Let's go do some television. You'll be able to do any theater you want." Here I am, being able to do theater that I want to do.
I guess maybe that's right. I think we've talked about this before. There's probably a similarity between doing soap operas, because don't they, for the most part, tend to run through them, much like a live show would be done, too many breaks?
Uh-huh.
Whereas if you're doing television, movies, little bitty short segments of...
Yeah, it is. That's one reason I stayed with soaps for so long, is because I just love to work, and you work real hard in daytime. You got long hours, and you do a show a day, and there's no place else that you do that.
Yeah. You ever find yourself saying lines that maybe you learned? This is almost like the Twilight Zone. One of the fears that an actor has is he's on stage and he forgets lines, right? That's a dream, a nightmare, or whatever. You ever have a day where you're doing one show and you realize all of a sudden you've gone into dialogue that's from maybe a week ago? Or could you tell the difference?
That's I couldn't tell. Well, Peter, you said that yesterday. Oh, I did? Oh, jeez.
So I've wondered about it, like at Conklin's, because Mary or Jim or any of these people will be doing one show, and they've got two other ones that they're also rehearsing for, or maybe they're doing two shows and they're rehearsing for another one. It's like, how do you keep it all?
I was a lucky one. I had so much dialogue all the time that, I'd get to the next day and somebody say, "Well, what'd you do yesterday?" I don't remember. I had to just sort of forget one day and move on to the next.
Yeah, you get in gear, and it just because it takes a while to get geared up for a show like this, I'm sure, and you go into intensive rehearsals. Maybe you're still doing that, are you? Are you practicing this show before you put it on?
Oh no, we just all learn our lines and jump on that stage. That's
no blocking, nothing. Let's just do
Go for it. No, that's the fun part, is a rehearsal, because you get to explore an awful lot, try a lot of different things, especially with a cast like this that has been together, so they're very comfortable with each other, and they're just out there. We're just out there playing.
Yeah, we're real tickled to have you here in our midst, and you're going to be here through August 8th.
I'll be here a while, so yeah.
But don't fool around and wait to get tickets, because I think people should call right now while they're thinking about it.
Well, that's one thing. If they don't come and see the show, they'll send me home, and I have to bring somebody else out here to do the show. So come on in early.
And the poor guy's already been replaced by another Bo Brady. We don't want to have to have him leave this one.
I don't want to hurt my feelings again.
I do want to thank you for dropping by. Peter Reckell.
Thank you.
Ian, Allocating Annie, which sounds like a fun show.
Oh, yeah, it is.
If you missed that earlier, we were talking about it. Opens at the Conklin Players, Conklin Star Theater, let's see, June 2nd. 8 performances a week.
Yep.
And goes through August 8th. If you want to make reservations, do I have a number? I think I do. You can call toll-free, 1-800-322-2304.
Yeah, please call up. And I guess the procedure there is we do the show, and then afterwards we sit and chat with the audience if they want to stay and talk with me. So.
People can have their picture taken with you, right?
Yeah.
and get your autograph
Do the whole thing.
and do the whole thing, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's nice to sit and meet people.
Good field, halfway between here and Peoria. Easy to find, and they'll tell you how to get there if you call the number and have any doubts.
Yeah.
Right.
Look for the huge sign.
Yeah, bring the bus loads of people. Uh-oh.
Little sign that says theater. Yeah. it's 11:29. Bernie Coppell did the whole thing on that one. News is next. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to visit with you. Time flies by too quickly.
Well, I've been here then.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to leave if you don't want. Stick around. You're welcome.